Hello, and welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. My name is Maddie, Kendra Nilsson's COO, and today you'll be listening to episode 233, Rising Strong, Rebuilding Your Identity After Life-Changing Events with Jenedy Paige. We hope you enjoy.
Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. Today we have a special guest, Jenedy Paige, who is both a professional oil painter and American Ninja Warrior athlete. Her early rising habit and consistency fuel her diverse passions. She's also a proud BYU Idaho alumna. She balances her role as an artist, athlete, wife, mother, and teacher. Jenedy's journey showcases how embracing one's unique gifts and working tirelessly can lead to unexpected and fulfilling paths in life. So thank you for coming on the show, Jenedy. We're excited to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kendra.
Yeah. Do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself in your own words?
Yeah, I've had 4 kids and went to school for illustration at BYU Idaho and have just been painting professionally for the past 18 years. And through a strange series of events, ended up auditioning for American Ninja Warrior and have competed on 5 seasons. And now I coach at a local ninja gym and also compete in the National Ninja League. And it's so crazy because if you would have told me when I was 12 that one day I was going to be a professional oil painter and also a ninja, I would have never believed you.
I was just going to ask about that. Did you just dream as a 12-year-old of being a ninja, like this?
No, thing? I wanted to be a writer or a pianist. Like piano was like my first love. But this is what's so crazy is I would say my whole path has been directed by a faith that I have in God and that He can direct me. And because He sees more than I see, it's like He's leading me on paths I could have never chosen. And so it's funny because you think when you're 30, like I'm developed, I'm an adult. And you think like you're like somehow complete or something, like that you've established who you are and what your passions are. And I'm here to tell you that no, like you can keep changing and evolving throughout your whole life if you follow this pattern of kind of surrendering your will to God. Who knows like where He can take you. So
I completely believe that. And I'm holding out hope then what you're saying is I can still be a ninja.
Of course. If you're ever in Utah and you want to go train, just let me know. I'll take you to the ninja gym.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Although I don't know of any ninja gyms around me. Is this like a thing they have all over? Is ninja gyms?
I'm telling you, Kendra. I live here in Utah and every new park that goes in is like a ninja themed park. They put little obstacles up for the kids and I feel like the sport is just continuing to grow. So I wouldn't be surprised if you have a ninja gym close to you somewhere.
Yeah, that's amazing. And honestly, when you said 5 seasons on American Ninja Warrior, is that what
you said?
I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought so many people are doing it and you only get one chance, but you can do it as much as you want.
As much as they'll let you. Every year you have to submit a new application, like you make a video. And then you just have to wait and see if they're going to invite you to be on the show. So I've actually received 6 invitations, but one year, 2020, I drove down to compete on the back lot of Los Angeles during just the beginning of all the insanity with COVID-19. And I remember being in the hotel room with my kids and being like, do not touch anything. And then the night before we were supposed to compete, the state of California shut the whole thing down.
All of that.
I just had to drive back home. But yeah, it's been a fun journey. And I don't know what the future holds. That's the interesting thing with television. You don't necessarily know if there's going to be another season. You just have to wait for the casting call to come up.
That's amazing. How has embracing challenges outside your comfort zone, just like we're talking about with American Ninja Warrior, helped you with your personal fulfillment? Because this is not so ordinary, right? Most people don't do this.
I know. Actually, when I first started doing American Ninja Warrior, I was only working out at the local rec center, doing mom fitness classes with all the other moms. I had just competed on my first season, and this lady came up to me and she said, Jenedy, it's really interesting that you as an adult choose to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. It was like when you're growing up, you're playing the piano and you have to do your first piano recital, or in the process of growing up, there's a lot of firsts and a lot of discomfort. It's just part of growing up. But when you become an adult and you become settled, it's, oh, I don't have to do uncomfortable things anymore because I'm an adult. I'm kind of like settled into my thing. And she's, but for you to choose as an adult to put yourself in such a path of discomfort, like that's really, and I was like, Oh, I hadn't really thought about it that way, but I guess you're right. But it is so true. Like I said, I guess I should clarify. I did not choose this ninja path really for myself. It was more something I felt directed by God to do. And so it has been so uncomfortable. I was at the climbing gym one day and I had this impression, you should apply for American Ninja Warrior. And I was like, no, that's crazy. I had watched the show and my husband and I had literally had this conversation one night. Hey, would you ever do that? No. Would you ever do that? Absolutely not. So it was weird that I had this feeling, right? But this is the thing, God is so persistent. And I think we all know what it feels like to have a feeling like we should do something. And then we resist it because we don't want to do it. But because God is so persistent, that feeling comes back and it comes back and it comes back. And I finally just had to pray about it one day. And you offer this prayer that you never think that you're ever going to say. And prayer is, okay, God, keep having this feeling. Want me to apply to American Ninja Warrior? Yes. And I'm like, why? But because he has asked me, I have to do it. So I apply. And then after I apply, I tell my husband, you know what? I should probably take classes somewhere. I don't think they're going to call me, but if they do, and I haven't even trained, I'm going to look so dumb. The closest ninja gym at the time, this was 6 years ago, was an hour away. And I had to drive at 6 in the evening, rush hour traffic through Salt Lake. And by the time I got to the ninja gym, I would be sweating like down to my first rib cage because I was so nervous. And then you walk in there and it's not like at this time they have mom ninja classes. So you have to take a ninja class with a bunch of teenage boys, which is so uncomfortable. And you feel like an idiot. Like, what's this lady doing here? And then even just the process of learning the obstacles requires you to throw your body and attempt to catch things. And you fall so many times. And you're just thinking, this is stupid. Like, why am I doing this? And when I was driving home the first night, like I could hardly hold the steering wheel because my hands hurt so bad. And I was like, God, I am an artist. Do you realize I need these for my job? And you're like throwing them into things. And I remember that first practice, it all felt totally impossible. There's no way. But then what's so crazy is you keep showing up and it would be really overwhelming to see like the whole course and like the whole gym and think I can't do any of it. But if you go in and you pick just one thing to work on, it becomes a little more doable. I'd be like, okay, today we're taking on the ring toss. Next week, we're going to take on the devil step. And I would just spend the whole practice working on one thing. And eventually you get it. And once you get something that you thought was impossible, suddenly it just in your mind that you are capable of more things than you think. It becomes a metaphor for life. And so that's one of the things that I've loved about competing in the sport is that it constantly challenges what you think is possible. Even now that I've been doing this like 6 years, like when I first started doing ninja, I would do a lache, which means you swing on this bar and you throw your body 6 feet and catch yourself on a metal bar over here. So at first, impossible was 6 feet, right? But then I threw 7, and then we moved it to 8, and then 9, and then 10, and then just this year, at 40 years old, I got 11 feet. And you're just like, dude, the realm of possibility just keeps on going. And so I think that's one of the things I've been so thankful about in being involved in this sport is that it's caused me to think bigger, not just in like my physical capabilities, but also in my professional world. And it's caused me to want to encourage other women to do the same thing. And so just this past January, I started a mom ninja class. And it is so fun to now encourage other women in this same path. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yes. So inspiring. And I really wish you were in the Boise area so I could take your class, number one. That sounds amazing. We love to play in my house. And I'm not like a great rock climber, but we do that. I do a lot of working out, but all of those things sound amazing. Plus the title of a ninja. How could you not want to do something like that?
It gives me a little bit of street cred at the elementary school, a little bit.
You said several things though that I just thought were amazing. You said, think bigger, and you fall so many times. Like that analogy for that, like just keep getting up and then praying to God. I love that prayer. I'm going to need more support, like how we can apply that also to other things. And then last but not least, you are capable of far more things than you think. And just, again, how you can apply that to so much. And you're doing it again in that, I don't even know what stage of life we should call it. What, the second stage of life beyond
the 4th decade.
Kid stage? That's so beautiful.
Oh, I was just going to add, it's almost easier to believe that you're not capable.
Yeah.
It's easier to say, that's not possible for me.
Yeah.
Because if you just say, that's not possible for me, then that's your excuse for not trying. But if you instead choose the harder path of believing that I believe we are children of God. And if you're a child of God, what is there to stop you? And so that's the harder perspective to have, because it means you don't have an excuse anymore. It means that you actually get to put yourself in uncomfortable situations and then see and expect growth to come from it.
I was listening to something recently about somebody else that was talking about how we are children of God and that he's literally embedded in our DNA. And that put it more into perspective. I have real royal DNA and I still hesitate. We all do. But just thinking of it on that level, from even a microscopic level, we are so capable, but we don't often challenge that. So I love that you're speaking to that. And I got to add a little bit of it, because for those that are watching on YouTube, they can see that Jenedy is now doing artwork as we speak, painting. So tell me a little bit about that. Like, how are you balancing that with motherhood, and any advice you have for others that are wanting to pursue those passions?
Yeah, it is a daily effort and struggle. I remember, so I had this really beautiful experience when I was first becoming a mom, my first baby. And I was up in the middle of the night with him, and I had fed him and changed him and tried to burp him, and he was still upset. And it was like 3 a.m. and I'm looking over at my easel that I hadn't touched in a couple months. And I had this brief moment of like resenting this small creature that was keeping me from something that I love so much.
Yeah.
And then in that brief moment, God was like, "Excuse me?" And and I had this class on the writings of C.S. Lewis when I was in college. There's this, probably one of my favorite quotes in the whole world is the last paragraph of Mere Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
And in it, C.S. Lewis says that there must be a surrender of the self. There must be a real giving up of the self. You must throw it away, so to speak. Nothing within you that has not died will ever be raised from the dead. And I remember reading this in college and being like, but what if my greatest ambitions and goals are like to help God? Why would I have to surrender that? And then there I was at 3 a.m, and that quote came back to my mind, and all of a sudden I got it. And I was like, oh, yeah. So you may think that being an artist is the most important thing, but it's not. And you need to surrender that dream, because this little human that you are holding is more important than any painting that you'll ever do. And so in that moment, I surrendered my art career. I was just like, okay, we're going to let it go, because this human, this divine soul that I have here is more important than any painting that I'll ever do. So God asked me to surrender it. And I did a painting that's really depressing called Letting Go, where my hands are open and my hair's down. And it's like this big painting about surrender. And it was like the last painting I was ever going to do. So dramatic. But then it was so crazy, because 6 months later, my son developed a sleep schedule, and all of a sudden I could paint. Like at 2 hours in the afternoon, it was like, oh my gosh, don't do dishes, don't do laundry, just like run to your easel. And so God asked me to surrender, but then he gave it back. But I'm so thankful for that lesson on perspective and priorities at the very get-go, because I would only get that little boy for 3 years. And I didn't know that at the time. And can you imagine if I would have constantly been fighting, like, when am I going to paint? When am I going to paint? And then at the end of it, if I would have been like, oh my gosh, I only got 3 years and I was worried about painting. And so I had that lesson. And so very clearly, God established to me, this is what's most important. This is second important. And so that's how I've handled this. So when my kids were super little, I started getting up at 4 a.m. so that I could paint until they woke up at like 7 or 8. Man, you get 3 or 4 hours in before your kids even wake up, and you feel like a champion, and you feel like, let's go take on the rest of the day. I already got my painting done. And so that's one way that I've juggled this. But I will say that being a parent, it's like a living thing. And it's constantly ebbing and flowing, and your schedule is always changing as your kids grow. And you can't really set anything in stone, because your kids will not allow it. Even my 4 a.m. painting, I had an early riser daughter who would come down to the studio at 5:30 in the morning. And you're just like, no. Like you hear her little footsteps coming down the stairs, and you're like, no, go back to bed. And so you have to adapt. You're like always adapting. And so even in my current life, where my kids are at school most of the day, I'm always adapting my schedule, because now I have not just painting, I have podcasts, I have to run a business, I'm organizing a conference. And so my goal now is, okay, I just need 4 hours. That's it. So sometimes I still come to my studio at 4. Sometimes I do other things first thing in the morning and then I come here at night. But I feel like if you want to be a parent and then also pursue a passion, you have to set a goal, like a standard you're going to reach for, but then allow for flexibility. If your plans get derailed, don't let it kill your dream. I think there's opposition that is so quick to tell you, like, you were going to be an artist, but now your kid's going through colic, so there goes your dream. Or you were going to get up at 4, but now it's the summer and your kids are not in school and they're staying up until 10. Guess you're not going to paint during the summer. Like, the excuses are so strong and convincing that you have to hold to your goal despite all those excuses that are going to come. If we move things around in the schedule, we could maybe paint at 2 in the afternoon. Or I often talk about that in my life, I have these time cards. There's the mom card, there's the wife card, there's my religious responsibility card, there's my painting card, there's my ninja card. Okay, so maybe 5 or 6 cards. And they get shuffled like every day, but I just make sure that I play the cards. So that's the best way I could explain it.
Love it. And it speaks to so many of us, especially, like you just said with those time cards. We have so many roles that we're playing, and it's so difficult. I can speak from personal experience to shuffle those. Like, for example, when they have random snow days that shouldn't be snow days and they are getting sick, and it's just, okay, then you have 4 days in a row of not being able to get to your things. It's hard not to be filled with resentment or frustration and bounce back from that, but remembering your priorities, the things that you value the most. I love how you keep going back to that. And that quote, so beautiful. You mentioned that you're an early riser, and I actually am a major fan of that. I always get up early. Yeah, high five to that. My favorite thing. I love just feeling massive production at an early hour and nobody else is awake by the time like you feel like super good. It's amazing. But so going into that, how has this impacted even your family life? And what can you share with other people if they want that, but they feel like they keep failing and they just don't know if they want to keep trying?
Yeah, so I actually go to bed before my kids sometimes. So that's something that you have to grow into, and also trust. You have to have kids that you can trust to actually go to bed. And this is actually a big thing too, maybe not necessarily with just waking up early, but in general, in the juggle of things, is I have raised very independent children. And I think they see how disciplined their parents are, and they have just naturally followed suit. So I go to bed early, my kids go to bed early. We're usually all in bed by 9:30 or 10. And my kids will wake up and just practice their instruments, pack their lunches, shower, do everything they need to get ready for school, so that when I come home from either painting or sometimes I coach early in the morning, they're like ready to go. And that has been huge for me as a mom, to be able to juggle everything, is that my kids are independent. But I think going to bed, this is in the Bible, right? This is in scripture. And it's like one of the oldest things, like early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise, right? But it's not, like I said, it's not the common standard. In fact, most people, when they think of the morning, sometimes they think of MOURNING. Like everybody's, oh, the morning. But for me, I've tapped into this magical time where you can just, I think science has actually proven that your mind is the most sharp, most adapt and ready to learn new things, like first thing in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
And so for me, I just love getting up and like getting to work. And then I see this passing on to my kids. Like, I was actually working out this morning in the gym at 6 o'clock, and I hear my son upstairs like practicing his xylophone. So I feel like the early to bed, early to rise becomes part of our family culture, which I love, because I think most productive people get up early and get stuff done.
It's like the untapped thing that people don't even recognize. It honestly makes me think, not all of my listeners are Latter-day Saints, but like a Doctrine and Covenants, like the word of wisdom, like that was for the weakest of the week of saints. I'm like, maybe there was like one of those verses they forgot that was about rising early, and that would be great.
It does say right. It does.
Why do I not remember that part?
Yeah, I could pull it. No, it says to retire to thy bed early.
Oh, okay. I do remember that
Yeah.
part.
That your mind might be invigorated.
Maybe I was looking for more in depth. Like you specifically have to rise at 4 a.m. You got to do this.
God doesn't give us specifics like that.
Sometimes I would appreciate it. Just a little
I
bit of
know.
a manual. So you gave us a little background on the early rising. What about, okay, I don't know if you're this way, but I'm very much this way. I struggle to relax, like that downtime, like just being able to unwind and detach, just let go. What tips or advice do you have for any parents that are in that same boat? They are super productive, really capable, but then just to stop.
I've learned to embrace back.
What I thought you were going to say.
I actually go to sleep really easy.
Yeah.
I think because I wake up early and then I'm so active during the day, like I don't have a lot of downtime. And this is the thing though, is like I enjoy everything that I do. Like I love doing the ninja thing. I love volunteering at my kids' school. I love coaching. I love painting. I love creating videos about my work for social media. I love everything that I do. And it's all work, but it's all things that I enjoy, which I realize I'm very fortunate in that case, but it's also a very demanding schedule. Like I'm not ever really sitting and scrolling. I also don't watch a lot of TV. Like I don't have that time because it's either, hey, do you want to spend time with your kids and read Harry Potter out loud, which we're currently on book 7, trying to finish up that series. But if I turn on the TV, I just fall asleep. And I don't like falling asleep in front of the TV because then you get up and then you have to re-fall asleep, which
Yeah.
can be hard if you're going to brush your teeth and stuff, wash your face. So I just recommend get enough sleep at night. That's important. Like I recommend getting at least 7 hours and then have a full day and then just really enjoy your sleep. Because if you have that full day, like for me, as soon as I hit the bed, I'm out. I'm gone. I also don't take caffeine. I'm guess like what would you call like a natural athlete? Like I believe in eat healthy and exercise, and then I just have the energy that I need for the day. And I think because I'm not taking caffeine, that's like not an issue for me. So relaxation, take baths, and then get enough sleep. That would probably be my best advice. I wanted to add, I didn't get to add this to your last question about waking up early. For those that feel like it's impossible for them, I really have seen the power of 5-minute intervals, right? Because I have twice a year where my clock changes and it's really annoying to me. But how do I deal with that? If you just do, okay, I'm used to going to bed at 10. Tonight I'm going to bed at 9:50 or 9:55. And then I'm used to waking up at 6. I'm going to wake up at 5:50 or 5:55. And you just slowly move the clock. Suddenly your body gets used to waking up at 4. Like often my body just wakes up. I'll wake up before my alarm because my body has been trained to do it.
That's also what I do. I even have carried that into the weekends because I realize that even if I go to bed late, I still wake up around the same time because my body's so accustomed that I'm like, whatever, I'll just continue the pattern. You just talked a little bit earlier about your child that you only had with you for 3 years. Do you mind sharing some of that story?
Yeah. I had 2 little boys at the time. They were both born in Los Angeles. And then my husband decided to go back to school and get an MBA. So we moved to Tucson, Arizona, and we moved in with my parents so that we could afford grad school. And then they had a pool and my mom was so nervous about it. And I was like, Mom, it's fine. We've got alarms on all the doors and we've got all these fences and safety precautions. But one morning in the fall of September 26th of 2011, my son fell into the pool. And then he was revived and we spent 7 weeks in the ICU. And it was heart-wrenching. It was the worst thing that you could ever imagine because my son had damaged his basal ganglia, which is like the control center for the brain. And so he was experiencing something called sympathetic storming, where the sympathetic nervous system goes haywire and it looks like a seizure. All the muscles flex and the heart rate goes crazy high. And when we first got there, these storms that they called them would last like 20 minutes. And then over the course of the 7 weeks, they grew to be like 48 hours.
Oh.
And they literally just broke him. He couldn't handle those storms because they were so taxing on the body, and he passed away. And it was absolutely devastating, especially as a person of faith. During those 7 weeks, I had read all these accounts in the Bible of God healing people. and their children. There's several accounts of Christ healing somebody's child. And so I knew what he was totally capable of. And so when he didn't do what I wanted, it was the worst kind of disappointment. It's interesting because you can believe one thing. You can believe that we live after we die. You can believe that Jesus can heal you. But then it's a very different thing to be in a place where you've got a kid that is now separated from you and you are left to pick up the pieces. I think that the early mornings were very critical to my healing. I would continue to get up early and paint. And I tell this to people who are going through all kinds of trauma and they're trying to heal, that what you feel is so big. It literally is like a physical weight. I remember being in the hospital with my son and being like, how do I feel so heavy? It's just an emotion, but yet it comes with so much physicality to it. And the grief that you feel is so big that it's like, how do I carry this every day? And so you have to find something to pour it into. You've got to find an outlet to hold it, to express it. And so for me, it was painting and writing and music and running. So running, painting, writing, music, all of those outlets helped me process what I was going through. So I would get up at 4 a.m. and I would go into this spare bedroom with my easel and I would just paint and cry. And it was so beautiful because I would drip paint down my canvas and it literally felt like the paint was like mourning with me. It was allowing me to express the deepest of sorrows that I felt. And then I would go for a run. And up to this point, running for me I've been a casual fitness thing, but all of a sudden when I had so much to process and all this emotion to hold, it was like so intense because it became another way for me to put the grief outside of myself, find somewhere to place it. And even lifting, like weightlifting this is something I discovered after losing my son, was so beneficial because you're lifting this weight and as you resist it and you feel that resistance and it like feeds your spiritual grit. The physicality of it for me also strengthened my soul. I believe I'm a dual being, both body and spirit. And in that duality, I feel like as you strengthen one portion of you, it enhances the other. So work on strengthening your spirit, enhances your body, strengthen your body, it enhances your spirit. And so for me, part of my fitness journey was definitely affected by my grief because it became like this other outlet that I could pour it all into. And then it changed my art so much too, because I ended up doing all these paintings that had to do with grief. And it's become like my origin story, really, because I feel like I was totally destroyed and God had to rebuild me. And so I really am like a totally different person today than I was before.
I appreciate you speaking to this, especially something that's heart-wrenching. How long ago was it, by the way, Jenedy?
My son passed away in November of 2011. He was my oldest, so he would have been 16 today.
So sorry to hear that. For listeners, we've all had different things happen to us, but death is rough. It's one of the biggest ones in the spectrum of things, I think. And learning how to get through that, especially with your child. I don't know that learning is the best word, but how you did, like, how did you say it? Find something to pour your grief into. And for you, as running, painting, writing, lifting, like doing something where in that you didn't use this verbiage, but you were processing, you were like crying as you're painting. You're able to just get that out instead of just shoving it down, and in that process healing, even though it likely did not happen in a short period of time. That's incredible that you're able to find things to help you through it instead of just acting like it was nothing and that you were fine. You had one other child at the time, you said?
Yeah. And that was actually a tremendous blessing too. Is I think I've grieved with parents before that lost like their only kid. And I think that would be 10 times harder, honestly, because I had to be functional. I couldn't just stay in my bed all day and cry because I had an 18-month-old to take care of. And so I think that's why the early morning hours of painting were so helpful too, because I could just get up and I could wail and let it all out and just be as I don't know if dramatic is the word, but just like you feel so much and you have it. And I feel if you find a way to express, it makes it so much more bearable. And so I would express it through my art or go for a run, and then I would have to be a mom. And so it's literally like I would shut the door on my grief when my son woke up and just be like, hey, now let's go be a mom. And then just that I knew that grief door would open again for me the next morning at 4 and I could go and yeah.
I tell my clients that all the time. I actually asked them the question. I was like, do you feel like this is healthy, shelving it, or do you think this is like an avoidance, running away from it? Because it's okay to shelf it for a little bit. And if we're just shoving it down, it's going to come back out again in ways throughout our lives. So anyway, we explore that. And it sounds like you were, from what I can tell, shelving it in this healthy way. I'm going to come back and process this at another time when I can give it the attention it needs.
And don't get me wrong, there definitely are times too where it just takes you by surprise in the middle of your day. And it's crazy too, because it's been so long. But I still have times where it just comes up out of nowhere. Obviously, it's much less frequent than it used to be. But it is very much a real thing that you will carry for a very long time. But it's so beautiful though, because I really do feel like while the burden can't be lifted, I feel like God has strengthened me to be able to bear it better.
Yeah. It just goes back to what you said in the beginning. You are capable of far more things than you think. Of course, you never wanted to have that trial, I imagine, of losing a child. And yet you're capable than far more than you think, and how it's probably shaped you and prepared you and increased your empathy. I'm putting words in your mouth. How do you feel like it's changed you?
Yeah, I go back and I see videos of myself prior to my son's accident, and I am so naive. I'm so beautifully naive. And in a way, there was a time I actually mourned thatness that was taken from me. Essentially, God asked me to grow up. And I think we all go through times where we have to grow up and it's painful, but it's also so beautiful because you become a much more useful tool. Sometimes I think, well, how inspiring or how great would my story be if it was, oh, and you should pray because you'll get what you want. So just pray and you'll get what you want. And it's so great. That's not reality. And I remember in my frustration to God saying after my son passed away, but I had all the faith in the world and you didn't give me the miracle that I needed. And then God said, Jenedy, what takes more faith? Getting what you want or continuing on when you don't? And it's not an answer that you want to hear, but it's so true. And so I feel like going through this experience, like I said, it totally destroyed me and it recreated me and it made me a more useful tool, because the reality is that pain is the common denominator amongst all mankind. You are a more relatable person if you've experienced pain, because that's one of the classes we get to take here on earth is the problem of pain.
Absolutely. Yeah, the whole point of being on this earth is just to gain experience, and often in those challenging, terrible, those are the best teachers. And often I still resent some of those things. But as a therapist, I see that all the time. If there's any abuse, neglect, death, all of those things are tools now that make me more effective in helping other people. But I never would have raised my hand, or maybe I did, I don't know, and be like, yeah, give me those ones. But yeah, I think it's so beautiful how you said, I was destroyed and recreated. It almost reminds me, actually, I think I shared this in church the other day. I don't remember the method they call it, when the thing is broken and they put it back together with gold paint.
Oh, the Japanese gold pottery painting. Yes.
It makes it more durable and more unique, and I guess in that way more effective than it was before. And that's essentially what it sounds like you're saying, what happened to you.
And I feel like one of the best ways to live a fulfilled life is to live a life in the service of other people. And if you've never experienced tragedy, how are you going to be able to comfort those in need? Yeah. And so the fact that we all experience some form of trauma, if you let it, it can be such an incredible tool for you to connect with other humans and to serve them. And there is really nothing more fulfilling trying to love and serve other people.
It's hard to remember that all the time, but it's true. Like when you get past all of that other stuff that fills your life, that's really what brings joy. Right. Getting outside yourself, lifting others. I very much appreciate all your insight today. I just want to end with a couple of those things that really stood out to me as you were talking. There must be a surrender of the self. I loved how you talked about that. You are capable of far more things than you think and live a life outside yourself. And remember also that if you feel destroyed or just broken in so many ways, you also in that process are recreated into something even stronger, something more beautiful and more useful, like you talked about. Thank you for sharing those insights. Those were incredible. And I loved hearing your story. It's very much a story I wouldn't have expected, from the ninja story to all of the rest, but I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, of course.
Do you have any other final words, or also where we can find you before we close for today?
Yeah, so actually, these worlds of art and ninja have collided. And I'm actually doing a series of paintings right now of strong women. And it's funny because I felt God be like, hey, paint this lady. And I was like, okay. And I was like, and paint her. And I was like, okay, wait, I'm seeing a theme. And then it was like, Jenedy, all these women need to share their stories. They have such incredible stories. And I was like, oh, wait, we're going to make this an event. So September 26th this year, I'm hosting the first ever Strong Woman Experience. We're calling it an experience because you cannot have a strength conference and sit and talk about it. Yes, we will do some sitting and talking, but that will be only half of it. And then the other half will be experiential, like a lab. I will provide a lab where you can try all these different strength building activities. And we're not just talking physical strength, though we are talking physical strength. We're also talking spiritual strength, mental strength. And so the woman that I'm working on right now is a mom of 7. And in the painting, she's juggling balls, but she has way too many balls than she can actually juggle. And there's all these random little hands coming off the side of the painting that are helping her catch those balls. And I'm titling the painting When Heaven Helps You Juggle, because I've seen this in my own life. Like, I am always overscheduled to the max, all the balls in the air. But God is so good that as I strive to have him involved in my life, he will help me, either by my neighbor or my mom, or who knows, an angel, help me juggle these balls. And so this woman is just one example of a strong woman. Sometimes a strong woman is a mom trying to keep all the balls in the air. But I'm also painting an athlete. I'm painting a cancer survivor. I'm painting an amputee. And these women are all such pillars of strength, and they're going to come share their stories in person. And it will be in Sandy, Utah. And the sit down portion will be at a gorgeous venue called the Hale Center Theater. And then the afternoon portion will be at Impact Ninja, which is the largest ninja gym in the world. It's 44,000 square feet. And I'm going to fill that whole space with strength experiences, from aerial silks to hip hop to journaling. I have a therapist coming to talk about how she has seen strengthening your body actually helps you recover from trauma. I have a friend talking about overcoming food myths and also coaching proper lifting form. So it's going to be a very broad event. But I just have such a desire to inspire women to reach beyond what they think is possible. I actually just finished a painting of a girl busting through a brick wall.
Yeah.
And this is symbolic of breaking down those barriers of impossibility and stepping into what you're actually capable of. So that's September 26th in Sandy, Utah. And you can find more information on strongwomanexperience.com. I also have the handle Strong Woman Experience on Instagram. You can also see my art on jenedypaige.com. I'm also very active on Instagram, just the handle Jenedy Paige, JENEDYPAIGE. And I share really frequently, like, paintings that I'm working on, crazy ninja stuff that I'm trying to do, and then just like general little bits of inspiration or wisdom that I've picked up from studying the scriptures. So
I love it.
Sometimes I go to marketing classes and they're like, you need to make sure that your brand is like so locked in. And I'm like, on my feed, you might get a scripture story, you might get a ninja workout, or you might get a painting in process. You might get all those.
That's incredible. And that event sounds amazing. So September 26th, and you said it was strongwomanexperience.com. We'll definitely send people there. I'll put that in the show notes. And I cannot wait to see more of your artwork. Really quick, tiny interjection. My mom had 6 kids and was pregnant. She found out she was pregnant with her 7th when my dad went missing and became a widow. And your painting, I would love to see it, but it reminds me of my mom, just like the things that we go through that we never ever think will survive. And
I know.
I just love how you said that. Reach beyond what you think is possible. That's very much a message that I try to share too, and that you are speaking to so many women in your sphere of influence. I'm so grateful there's other people like you sharing that same message. So thank you for that. Thank you for coming on the show again. And good luck in all of your crazy endeavors, because Jenedy, it sounds amazing.
Thanks, Kendra. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us here today. We hope you have a wonderful week. And as a reminder, please head down to the comments in Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. That is how we get found. And that is also how we share positive ripples, as well as head to our website, fulfillmenttherapy.org, to check out our courses that will further help you in your personal, family, and marriage growth journeys.